Joe, welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, Justin, thank you so much for having me, man. It's a complete honor. So yeah, I mean, I've been a big fan of your channel for a long time, and I know this is the first official live. I watch the other two, of course, but I'm excited. I think our audiences are going to be similar, and I hope some of the people that watch my channel as well come over here from Profit First Reseller. But I'm just excited to chat with you and just yeah, I've got so many questions, and I always love connecting with another reseller and content creator. Like it's interesting that that's kind of a combo that I'm able to find more than one person who's able to do these two weird and actually relate to you as well. And,
yeah.
So thank you for having me, man.
Well, for sure. Thanks for coming on. And likewise, I think for those of you that might not have seen Joe or seen his channel, I think I would consider sort of the antithesis of the common like reselling YouTuber. We're just like calm, collected, and just like it's almost a Zen-like experience watching some of your videos. And I think like that's maybe not the exact approach that I've taken, but it's similar. We're like in the same arena there, where we just sort of keep it chill. So it's I think our audiences probably mix well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm definitely not going for the big flash. And yeah, I think I actually connected with another eBay seller this week who mentioned something that Gary Vee said one time. And that has been something that's been bouncing around in my head ever since I started the YouTube channel, which was document, don't create. And it's just such a simple saying, but it really unlocked something in me of like, I don't need to be an artist. I'm not. I've never really associated myself as a very creative person, but I'm very honest. I'm good at telling the truth, maybe to a fault. So I'm like, if that's all it takes, I can just do that on social media. Like that was kind of a game changer for me, I think.
Well, I think you really make good connections with people by sort of just being transparent and honest. And that's like everything that I've just tried to do with my own channel, my own videos, and you probably are similar, but like I optimize for trust. I think like, I just want to be transparent. I just want to share my story. I just want to tell it the way things are. I don't know. It's just a refreshing way to do it. And I feel like I get that out of your content as well. So.
Wow, that's so refreshing. You optimize for trust. Yeah, I love that.
That's what I try to do.
Yeah, I feel that from your content. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I'd love to hear like, how did you get into reselling? Like what's your story there?
It started around the end of 2019. My wife and I have been together 13 years now. We've been married for over 10. We celebrated our 10th anniversary this year. Congrats. And ever since before we got married, way before that, we've been business partners. And we've always, so our first business was a food cart. We started with a Kickstarter campaign. And as that was ramping down, as we kind of, restaurant business is certainly a grind, as a lot of these businesses can be. And I think we scaled too quickly, which is a classic business mistake. But we were kind of ramping the business down, and we had some extra restaurant equipment, and I had some extra free time. As Heather was still managing the restaurant, I was watching our two kids, but I could push them in our Bob jogging stroller over to the local Goodwill, and I'd let them run around the toy aisle, and I would just start scanning barcodes and anything with a model number. I was a little bit more comfortable with electronics, but the kids wanted to play in the toy aisle. We had our first two kids. We have three now, but they were both really young at the time. And so I was just watching them and trying to sell what I could. And then I found YouTube, and I found Daily Refinement, and I found Tech and Sports. And I was like, wait, this can be a job actually. Like I was still kind of transitioning out of the restaurant, and I knew I loved it, but I'm like, I think I just needed to see it. I'm somebody who likes to find maybe heroes in a way. And I try not to hold them up in too high regard. I think I really recognize that we're all human, but I like to see an example of somebody who's like doing something incredible. And so that's what I found, of just somebody who had a SKU system and who took it seriously and had a listing goal and treated it like a business. And so I was like, I know I love business. I've been doing my restaurant for 7 years at that point, but I wanted to do something small again. I want to be home with my young kids. It was too much for me personally as an introvert. And without a great management staff, it's when we had a great management staff, but it was understaffed. We just didn't have enough money to pay enough managers to hire the amount of people that we had working for us. And so to have employees and managers who have your number, and then also young children, was just too many things that could call my attention at any given time, 24/7. And I just needed to kind of quiet down my life a little bit. We had a bit of a moment, while the restaurant was still running. We went to this family reunion. My wife and I were able to get away. The restaurant staff was so good. They ran the restaurant for a few days without us. And it was the first time, and we were out of cell service. And it was just a moment to breathe. And I recognized, like, we're missing this in our life. When you have a business that's open to the public 7 days a week, you never know who's going to walk in those doors, and things, there's just so many things that could happen. That's a complicated machine. And so I love that moment of reflection, time with my family, and just recognizing what truly is important to me. And it wasn't just working all the time. And I could feel myself, like the bitterness was like starting to brew. Like I wasn't quite there yet, man, it was close. I could feel it coming. So,
And so is that like, you saw that in reselling then? Like you saw a path to being sort of out of being just like constantly consumed with work. Was reselling the answer to that? Like, was that the transition?
I still worked way too much in eBay as well. I've had my trials of like knowing when to turn it off. Now it's
Yeah.
a separate thing because now I work from home, and it's like every possible minute could be profitable, and it's hard to pull myself away and actually sit and listen to my son talk about the intricacies of the video game that he played. But like that's what he needs. He needs someone to listen. And like I'm the one that's here for him. I'm like modeling the world, and like there are people that are going to be interested in him, and I think that is an important job too. So that's been a hard balance I've been trying to figure out hobbies. The whole reason I started YouTube is because I just needed a hobby. Like I'm not doing YouTube for money. I think if I just spent all the time I spent filming myself and
Yeah.
setting up cameras, if I just spent the time listing items, I think eBay is the actual business with comps. I mean, of course, there are people on YouTube, even people we both know who make a really amazing living on YouTube, but there's no sold comps for a YouTube video. It's not the same kind of thing, especially if you're depending on your livelihood for it and you don't have a long runway of savings. That's a very stressful life I think you're signing yourself up for. So
Yeah.
I'm grateful for eBay that it seems more like a business, but it's a small bit. It can be whatever size you want. It can be whatever you want. It can be part-time. It can be, and it really is flexible in that way. I love
Yeah.
it.
Well, tell me about your reselling world. I mean, I'd love to know, like, what do you sell? You know, what's your focus? Have you always sold that? You know, how are you sourcing it? Like, what's your reselling tech stack look like?
Yeah, basically, I mean, I've always been a nerd. I mean, one of my first jobs was an IT tech support internship, and
Hey, same.
fixing computers was my first. Oh, really?
Oh yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I worked at a local community college. I would wake up and we'd get a printout of like, this professor needs their printer connected, and this
Yeah.
professor's having an issue with their mouse. And I would just go walk around and just be able to check off the list and help. I loved it. It was a fun
I
job.
had the exact same job, literally the exact
Ah,
same job. Well, my first job in IT was I was working tech support for a dial-up internet service in like rural Missouri. So the people that would call in with like internet problems were like, just barely knew how to use a computer. I learned so much in that job about how to troubleshoot people's problems by over the phone, walking them through Windows 98, like,
mm, mm.
TCP IP settings.
Oh,
But yeah, I
wow.
went on to do the exact same job at a university as well. And so anyway, I interrupted you. Like, what's your, what's your reselling stack look like? What are you selling?
Yeah.
Where are you getting it? What does that look like?
Sure. Yeah. So currently, I've always been in the electronics and hard goods niche. I think clothing's always been a little bit intimidating for me. Like style is definitely not my strong suit, but I like things with model numbers. I like things with electricity flowing through them in some way. I was always the kid taking things apart. So these days, I spent at least a couple of years, maybe 3 years, going to the Goodwill bins. That was like my full time thing. So I'd wake up early. I would go to the outlet,
Yep.
and I would just show up early and just get electronics. I think a lot of people, of course, there's like the T-shirt bros, and they would go over
Yeah.
here, and people would be leaving these Panasonic phones that are worth $12 plus shipping. And I'm like, okay, well, that's my niche. And the AC adapters, I was like, that's a Bose AC adapter, that's worth $19.99. Like, so I just
Yeah.
figured out my niche. It wasn't super home runs, but I quickly, especially early on, like from the beginning, I got that number of 30 items a day.
Okay.
And I
Like
feel like my
sourcing,
whole career,
that was your goal, to source 30 items a
sourcing
day.
and listing
I see. Okay.
So I would come
That's a
home,
lot.
I would list it, and then I would try to ship that many too. I'm like, if that's because that's what dealer refinement and tech and sports were talking about back then on when I was listening. They were like, you can pull off 30 items a day. Now what I didn't recognize was that they need to be high quality items. They need to have a established sell-through rate. There's a lot of
Yep.
McDonald's Happy Meal toys and Hot Wheels and Beanie Babies and like stuff that people don't actually want, but it's easy to list. So I could at least look it up and find something to sell similar, but that doesn't mean it's a good item. So I feel like my
Yeah.
entire career, I've kind of hovered around 30 to 35 items, even up till now, but I'm just trying to increase the quality of those items, whether that's just looking for higher quality, higher sell-through rate items. So I'm completely in the video game niche now. Or if I
Oh,
still deal, but I am still buying in bulk. So I've just basically worked myself up the chain. So I just have done like a Google Map searches, and I search thrift stores, and I just call and I like, can I talk to your manager? Pawn shops, electronics recyclers, anybody that might have the kind of junk that I'm looking for that they don't want to deal with. So I've made a lot of phone calls and just like a lot of web searches and even AI. I'm like, can you search for me? And so I've
so
got like maybe 10 connections or so.
you transitioned into being sort of focused exclusively on video game stuff. Is that right?
Now that's what I ask for. I'm like anything video game related, and especially the accessories, the cables, and the controllers. The
Okay.
games. I think almost everybody could recognize the value in a Final Fantasy cartridge for Super Nintendo, which I have literally never found in all my years, because I think anybody can go sell that at a garage sale all the way up to eBay for near the actual selling price, right?
Yeah.
So that's just so easy. What I get is the hard stuff. I got to do a lot of untangling, a lot of cleaning, and so
I've
it's
seen it.
still
I've
it's
seen it in
still
your
work.
videos.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of it is just a lot of rubbing alcohol, and like I walk back into my room and I get the waft of, and I've just been living in this rubbing alcohol haze for the last hour, but that's part of the job. And
How
yeah,
many
so yeah,
like
so basically it's all video game stuff.
okay. What's like the breakdown of listings that you have that are unique versus stuff that you replenish because you're selling the
Yeah.
same thing over again? What's the breakdown there?
So I mean, at this point, I love that, make your items go out of stock setting that you can enable on your eBay store. For me
Right.
personally, I found that that's just saving my work. I found
Yeah.
myself being sad when I couldn't find that, because often I was starting to get more repeatable items as I started buying more and more from the same sources. But I'd be sad if it had been over 90 days and I couldn't find that sold item I wanted to sell similar off of my own item. But at that point, what I should have been doing was just having it go out of stock and re-up the inventory, which is what I'm doing now. I think
Okay.
I was just worried about store limits. It's actually something that I talked to some of the eBay execs this week when I had a chance at dinner.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Last night.
That's a good thing to talk about. You just spent some time in
Yeah.
DC. You were invited out by eBay themselves to visit DC, talk to some senators. Why don't you tell the story? What have you been doing? It's really interesting.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so yeah, eBay asked me to go out. This is something they've been doing for a while. Even back 20 years ago, there was some legislation concerning internet e-commerce that they thought was concerning. So again, they were kind of pushing to basically talk to legislators and show them, one, that eBay is different than an Amazon. eBay actually wants small business owners to succeed, whereas for Amazon, small business owners are kind of their competition. When you see that, like straight up, where Amazon will just replace the item or go to your factory or just make an Amazon Basics version, they're using you as data a lot of the time to just create their own products. And eBay they do everything but sell, essentially.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting point of like, so what they want to do is they bring an eBay exec or two, somebody from eBay. They bring a DC person and then a couple sellers like me. They're about 14 or 15 sellers this year out to DC. And we were able to talk. So I was able to talk to the offices, at least, of both senators from my state, from Texas. So John Cornyn and Ted Cruz, as well as, so my partner in our group was from Kentucky. So we got to meet with their offices of Mitch McConnell and Rand Paul. And then I also got to meet my representative here from Texas, whose name is Jasmine Crockett. And so I was actually able to meet my actual representative. And essentially this year, the main issue we want to talk about is how companies are abusing the Vero program. And eBay's hand is kind of being forced, so there's already been some legislation that gives companies the power to go over to these marketplaces and say, that's a counterfeit item, you need to take it down. And the problem with there's a new act that was brought to the floor last year. And in the verbiage of it, there was a 3 strikes and you're out policy. So they were basically just increasing the company's existing power to use this Vero program. And it's pretty clear a lot of companies are using the program to reduce competition. Yeah. Right. I mean, you see this where they have these blanket takedowns of all these items. And I've gone back and forth. I've had some stuff taken down by like Phillips, for example, and they had some law firm representing them. And I went back and forth. I was like, no, this is a legit serial number. Here's the close-ups. And they were eventually able to say, okay, I mean, Pat, you can now send this email back to eBay and say we approve. But that mark was never taken off my account. So it's a really messy system. And
most people aren't going to do
accountability.
Yeah, most people aren't going to do the work that you did to follow up and prove and just like that. And it's a not good system. It really does leave some seller. Like I think Adidas, I remember over this past summer, just like removed thousands of listings. I know a lot of my viewers had some of their Adidas stuff removed, just legitimate Adidas stuff, but just gone. So what's your big takeaway from time in DC, talking with eBay executives and senators and all that? What's your number one big takeaway there?
So as far as on the political, it's kind of 2 things that I'm both very foreign to. It's a very corporate, like I was there with the eBay execs and we were getting shuttled around and like Escalades and there was like catered dinners and stuff. That was pretty cool. And then there was the DC side where we had this DC insider, a 3rd-party guy who was brought in by eBay to kind of show us around, to help the meetings go more smoothly. He was able to get us into a Senate House Committee meeting and say, hey, we got an extra 5 minutes, come sit in the back. And we were like quietly sitting in the back as these senators were talking to an Army general and like, so that was so cool. So what was interesting is what I heard from both the DC guy and the eBay people is that the last people that these representatives and senators want to hear from is us. They're tired of the DC people. They're tired of the execs. What they want to talk to is actual Americans and small business owners. That's the stories that they'll remember. They'll say, I met so-and-so from Arkansas and they had this story. That's the stuff they'll be repeating on the floor, even maybe like that same day sometimes. And they said, that's the kind of stuff that sticks with them. It's like the real human story. So that's why half of the group was just eBay sellers like me, and we were going in. So for the senators, we didn't know if it was going to be the senator or just a staff member. It's a very busy time. Obviously, everybody was running around just like stressed. I felt like it was on the West Wing. Somebody was walking by. I was hearing snippets of conversation, and it was incredible. And all these like secret tunnels and cafes, like it was really cool to be brought around by somebody who's been there before. And so it was cool, I talked to Jasmine, my representative, and she had just come out of a hearing. She had so many people trying to get her attention. And we only had like 5 minutes in the hallway to talk to this representative that's like actually from my district here in Dallas, Texas. And, it was so interesting. Everybody's kind of rushing through the introductions to kind of explain our stories. And she was like, no, I want to hear, where are you from? I want to hear who you are. Like, where are you from? Where are you from? And she really wanted to make a connection. I think that's I think she wanted to remember us. I think she wanted to see us as human beings. I think that is the kind of stuff that they remember. So that was really cool. And and here talking to the staff was interesting. I mean, it was very political, and nobody was like committing one way or the other. But and it isn't a nuanced issue. It's not like we want counterfeits. It's not like the act is supposedly giving companies the ability to keep real, which is like that's what us real sellers want too. We want the only genuine items on eBay to keep eBay legitimate. We want sellers to trust eBay, right? But it's a nuanced issue because they are kind of abusing it because there's this profit incentive, which is just so common. So
I think it's one of the toughest things about eBay in general. I mean, eBay has to have a lot of regulations and rules that they follow and that they hold sellers accountable for. And it's designed, those regulations that eBay puts in place on us sellers are really designed for the worst sellers out there. It's to prevent the worst things from happening. And it really, it hurts us as legitimate, sellers who have to navigate some, these crazy avenues to get things done. And, I don't envy their position. It's a tough platform to run, but that's really cool. That's awesome that they invited you out there. It sounds like, I watched, if y'all want to hear more about Joe's time in DC, I know he posted a video yesterday that went into a lot of detail about what he did there. And he got to talk to a lot of eBay executives about things that he and I guess 14 other sellers, wanted to see change in. So it's refreshing to hear, that eBay makes an effort in that. You hear that so much from people in comments, on YouTube and elsewhere, just, eBay not caring about sellers or things like that. I like to hear that there's evidence out there that they're making an effort to hear and to put people like you, Joe, into a position to have a conversation with folks and learn more about the struggles of a small business owner on eBay. So that's really awesome. That's really great to hear.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, the thing that stood out to me so I got to talk to Jamie. He's the CEO of eBay.
That's cool.
He came to us for a dinner and we had a kind of a cocktail hour, and he literally was going around to every single seller because those were the people he hadn't met yet. And he said, pretend you've got 2 minutes to tell the CEO of eBay everything wrong about the platform. What would you say? And then he just sat and listened. And he really wanted to hear. Like, he was like, okay, anything else? You got anything else? And he's like, do you have anything else? Anything else you want to? And he was listening. In fact, at one point, he like whipped out his phone. He's like, I want to record this. Like, it was cool.
That's really cool.
I brought up the eBay app because I'm like a power user of the eBay iPhone app. And it is what it is. I mean, it's quick for what it does, but it's limited in its capabilities. And he was right. He was like, oh, I'm not happy with where it is. I mean, and they're releasing updates like every 2 days, but he's still like, it's not where it should be. And so and he was talking about vibe. He's got some interns vibe coding some new stuff, and he's an interesting guy. I mean, he's definitely listening. I think his job is just improvement. I think the last thing he wanted was like praise. He's like, I mean, like what we've done is done, but we got more to do. Was the kind of attitude I got from him. So.
Well, let's hear from some viewers. We got some comments lined up here.
Oh, so many good people here.
Questions. Yeah, lots of activity in the chat. Chris, you wanna throw up some questions for us to talk through? All right, so Nell here asks, I've noticed when listing some items, especially when there are multiple listings, the majority of resellers use stock photos. I thought eBay frowned on that. So eBay frowning on stock photos. Joe, do you have words to say about that?
I think they do frown on stock photos from what I understand. Yeah, I would avoid using any stock photos or anyone else's photos for that matter. I think you can just take your own photos. And I think that, I mean, they were even, I mean, now with the ability to create listings, Jamie at the dinner last night was even talking about ways to use the iPhone app. Unfortunately, there's just too many limitations, but like, is there a way to verify that you actually have the item that
Yeah.
you're taking a picture of. Is like their whole thing is like they're kind of, a lot of it is relying on honest and good people, but they're also trying to include, security checks wherever they can. But I think
Yeah.
the last thing you want to do is like posting a picture of somebody else's item. I think you want to just post a picture
Yeah.
of what you got.
And I wish that I had an encyclopedic knowledge of eBay's terms of service, but I don't. But I don't think that stock photos are necessarily against their terms of service. I don't think that they disallow them across the board, because there are certain listings that you get, especially if you're selling similar from, that come with stock photos that have been that the rights of those photos have been granted to be reused. The way that I think, and that's one of the downsides of doing live shows and not being able to fact check yourself in the edit later. But I believe a lot of the time stock photos are handled much like Vero claims, where there are some rights owners who care about stock photos, and if you use theirs, they will take it down. But there's others that don't care, or that allow you to do it. And so I do use stock photos from time to time. It is, I would say, a gray area. Every time I do it, I'm like, I don't know if I want to do it. But sometimes it's just like, especially with clothing, clothing is very difficult to photograph in a way that is attractive. And so, but what's important, if you do use a stock photo, you always want to include your own pictures of it, so that sellers know exactly what they're getting. So you would never want to use only a stock photo. So if you do use a stock photo, and again, tread lightly there, we should check the terms of service before you listen to me. But I believe it's down to a sort of Vero claim to decide who or what companies allow stock photos or not. I think that's right.
Makes sense. I mean, but there is an element of like, not everybody's going to get caught doing something that maybe we shouldn't be doing. But I don't know. I feel like I treat my eBay account just like this precious raw egg that I'm just like,
I know.
This is, I mean, literally my nest egg, right? Like this is like what I'm like trying to pay my bills with. So anything even remotely sketchy, even end and sell similar, sometimes I'm like, oh, I know some platforms frown on that. They probably don't love that. I'm kind of gaming the system to get a new item number behind the scenes. It'll re-show up and people save searches, and it's like, it is the same item, but sometimes it doesn't get caught in the algorithm. And like, I want to kind of game the system myself. So I
mean,
there's gray areas everywhere.
I'm a big proponent of ending and relisting. And in fact, eBay just came out at eBay Open and talked about how, it's I did a whole video on this. I'm not going to get into it, but they in so many words called ending and relisting a myth. That practice of ending and relisting, was the only way to boost visibility in search. I won't get into the details. It's very interesting wording that they had in their explanations there, but it is an effective way to improve visibility on your listings. But I think your approach is exactly right, and I love eBay. I love selling on eBay. And I also just I don't want to do anything to jeopardize that, And so I play by the books as well. So what else we got? What's the next comment up here? Sherry asks, big sales this month. I'll just jump in and say, I've been somewhat preoccupied and distracted over the last 5 minutes, because I'm not even joking. I had 4 sales come in that I'm getting alerts for on my phone. I have no idea why. I sold 4 things right now, but I've had my sales have been very good over this summer. I've had no summer slowdown in any way whatsoever. And it just really has a lot to do with the inventory I have. I happen to have very good inventory right now. I have a pretty amazing consignment deal that I'm doing. And I've been coming across a lot of good inventory. It's just, if you have the right inventory, you're going to have big sales. If you don't, it's going to be a little bit slow. What about you? What does your summer look like? How have your sales been?
Sales have been down significantly.
Really?
I mean, I'm considering I have to rebrand if this year continues. So my branding is based around doing $1,000 a day on average, that I've maintained for the last year and a half.
Yeah.
And for the year up to this point, I'm still maintaining that average, but my 90-day total is in the 60s, and it should be 90,000, right? So yeah, so it's not where it should be. It was a tough summer health wise, and just that my store is a reflection of that. It literally just a reflection of how much focused effort I put into it. I mean, I made some great sales, and I've yeah. So
sorry, is that when you say, did you think that you said that your sales are a little bit lower? Do you think it's more macro? Is it eBay, or do you think because of more micro, how things that are happening in your life and happening in your store in particular?
You know, it's funny when you say that. You know, I'm not necessarily a religious person, but I think that I have almost a religious like belief that it's always my fault. I don't even ask. I don't even ask if it's eBay. I'm like, unless eBay is literally down for the world, it's
Yeah.
probably my fault. Or it'll be sorted out in 24 hours. Like there are weird server issues. Sometimes, you know, maybe your item gets listed while you have to end and sell similar. But for the most part, I just assume it's me. And like, yes, the general ups and downs, I'm sure that there are swings, more customers today than tomorrow. But when you see the results of consistent listing in your store, and then you see and then you recognize that like, of course, business is always up and down. And it's even for me, even when you are listing 30 items a day, sometimes it's a $200 day and sometimes it's an $1,800 day. And that's just business, right?
Yep.
And that's why I think it's important to set your goal above your minimum to pay the bills if you are going to treat this like a full-time thing, because that's a stressful roller coaster to be riding if you're going up and down your actual line that you need to make to pay your bills each month.
Yeah.
So that's hard. And so, yeah, that's stressful.
I love the way you put that. I mean, you know, you may be a little bit harsh on yourself saying that it's always your fault, but I think the message is right. You know, fault sort of just is an aside. Whose fault it is really doesn't matter. It comes down to you as the seller. I'm not talking to you, Joe. I'm talking to the world here. It comes down to you to solve it, no matter what it is, you know, and it's your responsibility, no matter whose fault it is. You know, if you're just, since we're on the topic of slow sales, it doesn't really matter whose fault it is. Is it eBay's fault? Is it, you know, macroeconomics fault? It doesn't matter. It's your responsibility to solve it. And that's so much of the message that I try to talk about on my own channel. Just like, you know, the life is going to happen. Good things are going to happen. Bad things are going to happen to everyone. You know, and your success depends a lot on your ability to navigate those and to take ownership of them. And to, you know, the other option is to not take ownership of them, and then you're stuck. You can't do anything. You know, so I like that message a lot. What do we got next?
Yeah.
What's the next
That's
question?
like a mic drop moment, bro. Clip that. That's a short right there. That's amazing.
All right. Andrew asks, do y'all mess with comic books? I've got a couple of sources that sell for $1 a piece, but the category seems huge.
Yeah.
Joe, you mess with comic books?
I don't often get them, and that's not something that I ask for. And it doesn't, you know, I get a lot of stuff that accidentally happens to get thrown in with video game like stuff, if that's what people think that it is. But I have not sold a comic book in a really long time, so I'm not super familiar with it. It does seem like, I mean, you have a year, you usually have an issue number, and you have a photo, so it would be fairly easy to find something to sell similar off of and get an idea of the market, especially with the research tool in the eBay app. You know, I can imagine it is such a broad category. You might need to search back for 3 years in the research button versus just the sold comps on eBay, just to see if you can find anyone that's sold one. But yeah, I mean, I mean, a couple bucks a piece, that's where you just have to make a business decision of what is worth it to me to list, right? I think everybody needs to have a minimum item that they will even look at. Otherwise, that needs to get donated or sold in a junk drawer lot or sold safe for garage sale, like whatever your plan for that is. But I think it's really important to have standards that, and like $1 a piece, that's a tough way to make a living. I mean, to scale up to $1,000 a day would be 1,000 items a day or more. And that's just, I mean, not feasible, right? So.
Yeah, that definitely makes it pretty tough. And I think, you know, I don't have any experience in comic books either. And I think it's really like any other big category, though. You know, there's going to be nuance in those categories, and there's going to be really good stuff, and there's going to be stuff that's not worth anything, and there's going to be stuff in the middle. I'm about to get into comic books, though, because I'm selling on consignment a friend's collection of stuff, and it includes a very large collection of comic books that are, you know, I haven't looked through all of them, but I just like picked one box and pulled 10 out and looked them up, and there was multiples that were worth more than $100. And so I have a feeling that it's going to be a very nice collection. But the way that I plan on, and the way that I plan on going up, you know, diving into this, I haven't even touched them yet, and I probably won't for the next few months at least. But what I plan on doing is, there's a system that I have, you know, for these large collections where I know that there's going to be stuff that is worth reselling, stuff that's not worth reselling. And I'll basically make some piles. You know, I'm going to open up these boxes. I probably will use a different tool for checking comps. Like, I can't remember there's a tool, somebody in the comments will say, but, you know, effectively allows you to very quickly take it's a comic book specific app, or it's maybe a media specific app, but take a quick picture of the cover and it's going to give you just a quick answer on the value. And that's a lot quicker than having to use the eBay app to do it, or even, you know, your traditional sort of like comp checking ways through eBay. You know, you can bang out 50 of them in a half hour doing this method. And so I'm going to go through that. Anything that's under a certain threshold, so I'll just say like $20, it's going to go in one pile, which is like, I don't know what to do with this pile. Anything over $20 is going to go into a pile of like, these are probably going to be listed independently. And then anything over like 100 or 200 will probably go in a different pile, because I do think that there's going to be some where I have to ask the question, does it make sense to get these graded? I need to treat this pile specially or special somehow. And so it'll probably take me a few days to burn through. I think there's around 1,000 comic books just to create these different piles. So I know what I'm working with, you know. But I suspect by the end of that, I will not be a comic expert by any means, but know a lot more than I know now. So.
That's a trial by fire. That's going to be really interesting, man. Well, congrats on that buy. That's really cool. Did you read comic books as a kid? Were you a fan?
I didn't. You know, I just didn't read comic books. What about you?
Just a little bit. I mean, they're so expensive. I could find the graphic novels at the library, so I always remember relating to Spider-Man, but no, never as much as I wanted to.
Yeah. By the way, you're from Texas, aren't you? Where in Texas are you?
Currently in Dallas, Texas. Yeah, we've been here over 5 years now. Yeah, okay. I'm a California kid. So I grew up in California, and my wife and I, our restaurant was in Portland, Oregon. I went to college in Seattle, so I spent a lot of time on the West Coast.
Okay. Because I grew up in South Texas, so back down just the hill country outside of San Antonio. So
fun. Yeah, we love it here. We really we're near some woods. We love the people here. I love the food. Oh yeah, my parents are out here too. It's kind of great.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah. All right, what do we got next? Who's up? Whose question's up next here? Danny asks, anyone else accepting offers from buyers and they don't automatically pay? I thought that was phased out last year, but I still get 1 to 2 a week. Joe, what do you think?
So I was at dinner with a bunch of eBay sellers, and the guy across from us was a luxury watch seller yesterday, and he was talking to eBay execs about everything that he thought could go wrong. He turned around his iPhone and showed an unpaid item that was over $10,000. And it was just sitting there. And he's like, what do I do about this? So yeah, people are dealing with this at every scale, and I think that they're listening. I think that it is getting better, but still some are slipping through. I still have a couple that have been waiting for payment for like weeks, and I can't even properly cancel them. So I think maybe there were some bugs in the transition. Maybe some are still slipping through. I do like that on most of my items, it seems like multiple people can actually buy it, and it doesn't actually get taken off the site until somebody actually pays for it. So I can accept multiple offers on the same item, and that has happened multiple times. So I think things are changing, but it's definitely not perfect. It's so annoying. And often that's how items get lost. If that doesn't get properly relisted, or the inventory, or, it's already sold, inventory goes down, and that's confusing.
Yeah, it is weird. And I think like a lot of things that eBay does, they tend to roll it out in phases, or they roll it out to smaller chunks of the audience or the user base or the sellers before rolling it out everywhere. And and so the feature though that Danny's talking about just specifically is like, when it's a condition of sending an offer to a seller that you have your payment information stored and you've agreed to pay if they accept it. And that's what is, to what degree it's rolled out, I don't know, but that is what some of your offers that you get are like that, where you press accept and get paid immediately. Other offers you get still are run through the old system where they, the buyer may take a week to pay if they ever pay at all. So I don't know. I just don't think that they've rolled it out completely. I don't know why. They've been testing this one for a long time.
I don't know why it's so hard. Apparently, maybe it is. I don't know. I'm not a developer, so I have no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, what do we got next? So, was that say Banshee Man? Okay, Banshee Man asks, what is your going to get you going for the day, or if you're feeling slow? Do you have a song that pumps you up, or do you go for a run? Joe,
yes.
What do you do?
Personally, both. Yes. Oh my gosh. Currently, I'm listening to the new album by Clips, which was one of my childhood favorite hip hop duos. It's two brothers, and they went radio silent for like 14 years as a duo. And all of a sudden, they popped up on my YouTube this year, and I'm like, where? And the album, the first song with John Legend, has literally made me cry every time. And when I cry, I run fast. So I know that about myself. So I'm a fast crier.
I don't know. Are you a runner? You're a runner as well?
Yeah, we live near a trail system that's just like literally outside my front door. So I can just put my shoes on if I need some time and just go out there in the woods and get a couple miles in. So I'm not a serious runner. I've got some plantar fasciitis issues. I'm getting old. I'm a tall guy. So I've really this was the year of mobility and healing. My two cousins, so we all ran. I have two cousins that are also, they love doing all this crazy stuff. We all ran a marathon together. We ran the San Francisco Marathon together, which was so fun 2 years ago. This year they did a triathlon. They did a half Ironman. And I just didn't have it in me. I felt so old. I'm so bummed. So this was the year I'm getting mobile again. So I bought all the tools, all the lacrosse balls and the rollers. And I'm just like, I'm gonna try everything and figure it out. I'm gonna be my own physical therapist. So that's
Nice.
my goal this year. So how about you?
Yeah.
You're a runner, right?
I am a runner. Yeah, I do. That's
Yeah.
to me. If I don't feel right if I don't have my run. And I've been sick for this past month, and I just haven't got a whole lot of running. But finally, this week, I'm like back in the swing of things, and out running. And so I don't know that I use it like to get me pumped up, but I use it to get my mind right. It's a time for me to like reflect and think, and I just find there's so little time in my life where I'm either not with someone else or not working or not staring at a screen. And so running is an opportunity for my mind to like let go for a little while. And it's very therapeutic for me. And so I use that to just keep me right. And I'm very glad to be back and running, but same as you, like, it's just different now. I'm in my mid 40s, and I can feel it. I can feel myself not having it like I used to. Like I ran a marathon about a year and a half ago. I did the Disney marathon, and it was it was terrible. It was terrible. Like my my training was great. Had some problems with some pain in various places, as you do in your 40s. But man, the marathon killed me. And afterwards, I was just like, I don't know if I can do that again. So, but I'm glad I actually ran it and finished it. So.
Sometimes a marathon feels like when you just like your parents like, what, you like candy? Why don't you just eat as much candy as you possibly can? And you just get so sick of candy that you never want to eat candy again. Sometimes when you're like at mile 16, you're like, I'm never going to want to run again. When I'm done with this, I'm done. I'm getting a new hobby. Man. And then a few days, few weeks later, depends on like when the pain goes away. You're like, okay, when am I signing up for the next race? You forget that stuff so fast.
That's exactly right. I think it was mile 18 for me, where I was like, I have 8 miles left of this. Like, oh my God, I don't know what I can do. Anyway, okay, what do we got next? Who's up? Who's up? I think Cheyenne is up next. I would like some tips and pointers, maybe just 3. Okay, only 3 on approaching recycling facilities and starting to incorporate e-waste pallets into your business. What's the best first step and 3 top tips? Sounds like a question for you, Joe.
Yeah, it's just it's recognizing for me it's just about people at the end of the day, and how do you contact the right people? So sometimes it's a phone number, sometimes it's an email, sometimes it's a Facebook page that has a messenger button, and you message them and you get a hold of the right person. And it's just figuring out which manager. Is it a district manager or the back end, the back room, or the warehouse manager? Just figuring out like who's handling the big piles of junk. First, you got to figure out what's the stuff that I want to buy that I think people would actually want to sell me, right? I think we got to recognize, especially me, I am literally buying from other businesses that also want to make money. So I need to have a pitch for them. I can't say, give me all your winners, give me all your home runs that you could easily go sell on eBay or in a retail store yourself. Right. So I think that's another way you're like recognizing like these are people, right? So how do I make their job easier, more profitable for their bosses or their bottom line, right? So I say, give me your unsorted. I mean, I don't get anything manifested. Like, man, that would be a luxury. I don't know what I'm getting. I'll get a blurry picture of the top. I mean, sometimes people, like if I'm getting like a pallet full of stuff, they'll like take pictures of the layers. I think that happened one time. So I kind of got an idea of what I was getting. Usually it's like, it's this kind of stuff. Like, good luck. So often I buy by the pound, and that's scary. I mean, I'm dropping hundreds, thousands of dollars at a time. So if that's something you want to do, then ask and figure out who the people that are dealing with that kind of bulk and ask for it. I think at a lower level, you can talk to pawn shops and these recyclers and say, I think it scales in either way, but you have to have an ask that's compelling. I think saying, give me all your Nintendo consoles is probably not going to go very well. I think they already know that's good, but they might not know that the Nintendo power supply that's wrapped up with 4 other dingy cables is also worth $30. So that's kind of been my specialty, because nobody wants to unwrap those cables. They're gross. And I wear gloves. You have to like clean the whole cable with a microfiber cloth. Like, it's not glamorous. Yeah. So these people are trying to make money on this stuff already, and it's already been passed down the chain. Somebody's already looked at it. So it needs to be, maybe what's in your specialty. I think a lot of times when you're trying to figure out what your specialty could be in eBay, you can ask questions like, what kind of things do people ask me advice for? Or what seems to come easy to me that other people struggle with? I think that could be kind of a first question to ask yourself, of like, what could be my thing? Yeah. But I'm just going to assume the easy stuff's taken. I think,
Yep.
especially if you're going up the chain, maybe if you can figure out a way to go directly to people and get into your neighbor's closets, there's still going to be good stuff there, but that's hard to get into, and there's competition in a different way for that stuff.
Yeah.
So I think the easy stuff's already taken. So I think it's just about figuring out what kind of hard stuff you want to tackle that somebody else might be willing to sell you. So.
I think that sounds right. I mean, there's two things that I'll just reiterate from what you said there. But I think one, like everything I heard you say there. By the way, are you having lens problems every time you clean?
I feel like I'm going in and out of focus. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry if that's distracting, but I don't want to be distracted with my video quality. I think it's the last time I'll try, but I was worried I put my thumb on it because I feel like I'm going in and out of focus. But if it's not distracting to you, then I'll stop doing it. But
it's totally fine. You're all good. I just yeah. But I think the thing that you called out there, it just you approach that as a business would approach it. I think so many people getting into reselling, they don't consider that it is a business or could be a business, and they take a very sort of relaxed approach to it, which is fine. Some people just want to sort of do things on the side. But like the way that you phrase that about understanding that you need to provide value effectively to the other person, like the value you're providing is probably one in money, you're paying them for it, but you're also like getting rid of a bunch of junk for them. Probably 2 points of value there. And I think the other point, which is very important to reiterate too, is just it's human connection. That's the big thing. It's like you will do so much better in this business if you are out there talking to people. I do a lot of bulk buys myself, not similar to yours, but it's just a random variety of bulk buys. And I've gotten every single one of them by just being, just by talking to people, telling them what I do, and just being open and honest about all of it. And the second part about it, like I became known that I pay cash quickly. Like that alone goes pretty far. People call me knowing that I'm going to come over with $1,000 in cash and buy whatever they have. So you need to provide value there. And hopefully that answered your question.
Are you known for buying a certain kind of item or category, or do people know you as an everything seller, or you're a cash buyer is what you are? That's awesome. I'm
a cash buyer. Yeah. And so I've got probably a dozen people that, don't hit me up frequently, but maybe once a month, I'll get somebody hitting me up from my collection of a dozen people. And sometimes they're really good. Like I picked up a couple months ago, one of my best pallets. It was a Kohler like bathroom fixture return pallet with just an incredible amount of high value pieces on that I paid like $1,200 for, and that just came through one of those connections, just like that.
Wow.
All right, I think we got one from DJ Ox coming up here. Are either of you using or looking into AI agent mode for comps or other efficiencies? I'm not sure what you mean by AI agent mode. Maybe you meant model there. I'm certainly using AI in a lot of different ways in my reselling job. The biggest way, though, is product identification. I think that's the most reliable and consistent way to use AI for my business and personally, is I'm selling across all categories. And so using AI to either directly identify what an item is through visual search or photo search, or just like working with AI to understand a particular niche. Like I was selling some guitar pickups, some vintage guitar pickups, of which I know nothing about. And they were unlabeled. They had the brand, but they were unlabeled. And I had to learn, like, what do I even have here? And so with the help of AI, it taught me what to look for, how to like measure the space between the screws, which said it was a specific type of guitar pickup and versus another one. So I just learned a lot by just going back and forth with ChatGPT to do that. That's mostly how I use it. But what about you, Joe?
Yeah, it's a great point. I sometimes forget that Google Visual Search is an AI empowered tool, and it has gotten better recently, I've noticed too. I use that every day. I mean, like, so when I'm like identifying an item, my flow chart is very simple. It's like, does it have a model number? Yes. Okay. Search the model number. No. Google Visual Search. And like, there's no step 3. It's like model number or take a picture. And if like, it doesn't exist, if it's not on Google, it doesn't exist. Like, Google Visual Search is amazing. I use the AI description. So what I do is when I'm going through and on the eBay mobile app, there's that single click and you can have it generate an AI description. So and essentially that's just pulling off of the title and your item specifics, I've noticed. In fact, one of my not complaints, but issues with eBay that I brought up with the execs this week was that I've noticed the AI description doesn't read the condition. So I sell a lot of stuff in parts repair, in the 4 parts repair category, and then 20% of the time it'll say this item's tested and working perfectly. And I'm like, no, it's not. Like it says, first of all, it says untested on the title and it's in the 4 parts repair category. And so I think it's just not even reading that as a single. I think it would be so just like one button that needs to be added. Just a simple thing. So what I do is I have that, and it usually generates a paragraph or 2 of just free SEO is how I see it. And then I hit enter a couple times, and then I add whatever buyer notes I think they will actually read on the very top of the item description. So I don't think anyone's going to read more than a sentence or 2, but if there's something important you think they need to read, fully tested and working, includes this, doesn't include that, I put that right at the very top. So, any other AI tools? I don't do AI listing. I just find that when I go to sold comps on eBay, I'm able to not only get a template by using the sell similar of the item already created for me and with a proven sales history, but like I'm also able to determine if the item's worth selling because I'm looking at the actual sales history. I mean, that is the most important data for me personally is what's the 90-day sales history on this exact item. And so I'm able to just go straight there and then in 2 clicks have a template based off of an item with a sales history with that title, right? And so I think that for identifying items, I do use AI, but I just find that the sell similar process for me is so quick that the all-in-one tools, I've not figured out how to work into my because I'm already using so many AI tools. I'm using the AI identification separately, a separate step, and then the AI description for all that typing, all the manual labor. And then I'm using sell similar to skip the ability to add item specifics. If I'm choosing a well-structured item already, that should already be there. And I'd want to be checking it anyway, even if the AI did it. So I will give it a quick scan, but I think that's about the same hit rate as an AI generated item specific. You still want to look it over. So I don't know. I haven't figured out how to incorporate the full one, but what about you? AI listing? Have you tried any of the
I mean, I've tried a lot of them. I mean, I'm just generally interested in them as a consumer and user of it, and I've tried almost all of them out there, and I very very similar reaction as you do. Is that and I think you said it well because it's exactly my thoughts as well. Is that like I'm never listing in isolation. I'm never just like only listing. It's always paired with research, with comp research, and so the biggest challenge that third-party tools have in working with eBay data is that eBay does not provide API access to their sales data. They used to many years ago, but now third-party developers don't get access to their third-party sales data. So applications that assist you with listing and that include pricing, they aren't using eBay data. And so that's why the pricing is just incorrect. Even eBay's own tools, though, the pricing is often incorrect.
That's what because I can use ChatGPT 5 in research mode, and it will literally go search on eBay and actually bring you sold comp. So the capability is there, but I don't know if it's limited. I know there might be some terms of service thing with these apps too. So I'm not exactly
definitely is. But it's a gray area for sure. And so it's it's just difficult. And I think but I've never found a system that is faster than doing my price research, because I start with price research. That's what I do. I start with demand checking and price researching, and then I sell similar. And I've not found an AI listing tool that is as quick, and it just ends up adding work to the process because you then have to review the work that it does. And sometimes it's accurate and you don't have to review very much or don't have to change very much. Sometimes it's very inaccurate and you have to change a lot. But either way, it's any time that you save with an AI lister, in my experience, is lost in having to check its work. And so I think we may get there in the future. I think that it'll probably take a little bit longer than most people think, but it's just, in my experience, not quite ready for prime time. But I know other people feel different. I think other people are using it in their workflows and finding it to be successful. And I think it depends a lot on what you sell, I think. Is a lot.
I think it must. Yeah, totally. And I'm also not somebody that was already familiar with desktop listing, and so many of these tools are desktop based that I think it's just.
Are you mobile? You're a mobile lister?
100%. Yeah.
Really? Wow. See, that's like, that feels crazy to me. Like I am so much faster with a keyboard and a mouse that when I'm trying to do it from my phone, I'm just like, I don't know. So
these processors are quick, man. The single core performance on these new iPhones is pretty impressive, and like I find the responsiveness pretty amazing.
Yeah, I don't mean necessarily like the speed of rendering or anything like that, but more of just like my ability to assess the demand and the market value of something with a larger screen and multiple tabs and things like that, and different browser shortcuts that I use. So my process is to do all of my research, my pricing research, and my list creation from desktop. Then I save as draft, and I have drafts saved, and then I go pick up my phone, and then I finish the process with photos and publishing from my phone. So it's a dual process, but I definitely feel more comfortable starting with the research process on the desktop computer. So it's really interesting to hear you're doing it mobile only. It's almost like,
I think,
well, when you make like, whenever I'm making a big purchase, like if I'm like buying some plane tickets or something, or we just bought a mattress, it's like, it's been 12 years or something. So we bought a mattress. I'm like thinking of like very close to pressing the buy button, but I'm on my phone. It's just something weird about spending that much money from my phone. I'm like, I'm going to go do this from a computer. Like, it just makes me feel old saying that, but it's a similar feeling. It's important things I feel like need to be done from a desktop computer. I don't know.
I get that. It might be an ADD thing. Maybe the desktop is too many things. I think I need to stay on task. And I'm like,
that's a good point.
I try to limit myself to just a minute or two of research. And I use the voice to text quite a bit, even just like repeating model numbers or searches. So I find that even faster than typing sometimes. Yeah, I think everybody, you figure out your own path. I love that eBay supports all these different paths. I mean, it's so cool.
So many paths. Yeah. All right. And Andrew, we got a question from Andrew. Let's see what Andrew has to say here. What do y'all recommend for a more rural seller? Sourcing is very stagnant here for about a 1 hour radius around me. Any ideas? What do you think, Joe?
I mean, I would just go further. I mean, but at that point, I think the further out you're going, I think the bigger of a purchase you're probably going to be looking for to make it worth it. Is what I would be thinking about. Is I've flown to Virginia and rented a U-Haul to drive a truck back full of inventory back to Texas here.
Wow!
Because it was worth it. It was worth it to spend that much time and go pick up the inventory, a couple of pallets of stuff. So I think if you can find the right buyer, so at that point you have the internet, and it's just about getting creative and there are so many options. I mean, there's a new YouTube content creator, De Novo Flips. Mm-hmm. And what he does is he uses Facebook Marketplace. He changes his location and he searches for stuff that he wants to sell on eBay that's not even listed for shipping. And then he starts a conversation, and it's about people. He's doing very much what I'm doing with managers, but he's doing it on a customer basis, on a consumer purchase by purchase, $100 purchase. He's asking them, I'll pay an extra $20. And often what he'll do, he literally will hire a TaskRabbit to go to their house and pick up the package and bring it to a UPS store. And then he'll have them ship it to him. So there's a lot of trust along the way, but he's figured out the system that works, and he makes so much money selling super high demand items from like Podunk, Arkansas, because they're trying to sell that on Facebook Marketplace, and they don't have anyone within an hour of them either. And so they're not going to get anywhere within market price. And he's able to pay really well, often more than their asking price, to say, if you'll at least ship it to me. So I think he's really got my mind on thinking about his vision. He drives a Tesla. He's like, one of these days it'll just be an automatic car picking it up and just bringing it right to me. Like, it'll be completely automated. And so I love the way he's thinking of this is a side gig for him. He's an anesthesiologist as his day gig. At night he's an eBay reseller. So he's a smart dude, and I love the way he thinks. It just, something else is just, if there's not sources available, there are probably people. Questions you might ask is like, what is produced in abundance in my area that might be undervalued here, but actually has that decent value in the greater area, but everyone's so tired of blankets from that one company, but actually that's a nice blanket, or this one, whatever it is, whatever is produced locally, right? Or just, what do people collect? What do people have around me? Are there garage sales? And maybe start putting on, I think Facebook Marketplace and local groups can be big, because you can not only post stuff for sale in those groups, you can post that you are a buyer. And that's when you get the good stuff sometimes, because that's the stuff that's not already listed for sale and hasn't already been snatched up by somebody. If you say, I buy this, this, and this, and I pay well, give me a text or I'll pick it up. I've done that. I say, I'll buy Nintendo Switches. I buy game collections. That's early on, especially at the Goodwill outlets. I'm like, I can get just as much stuff sometimes from a single Facebook Marketplace pickup if I talk to the right person. Yeah. And so, I think there's a lot of options. Facebook Marketplace for sure. It's a big one.
Yeah. I mean, I think those are all excellent tips. And I think the one thing to keep in mind is that, like, people are making it work all over the country in all sorts of situations. And it's no doubt harder, for Andrew, being in a rural area. You probably don't have access to thrift stores. You probably don't have access to, as many garage sales as other people do. But people are making it work. They're sourcing online. They're getting creative. The De Novo Flips strategy is an excellent one, where you're just, you can make that work from anywhere in the world. And there's some other YouTuber, I can't remember who it is, who's like literally doing that exact same thing, but just as a digital nomad. They're like in the Philippines currently, and they're doing the same thing. And so it's definitely possible, but you have to be creative. You have to get creative with your sourcing. Okay, what do we got next? Looks like PITCO, Pitco. Is that Pitco?
Yeah, Keith. Yeah, Pitco. Yeah.
directly for you, Joe. Are you seeing more competition in video games and accessories lately, or still good margins?
I mean, we're not at COVID prices, that's for sure, but I think that it's steady. I think there's definitely demand. It's certainly for the stuff that I grew up with. You know, the Wii is just around 20 years old now, a little over 20 years old. And the people like me that grew up with a Nintendo Wii now have jobs and expendable income. And so a lot of that stuff, the prices are maintaining. Wii Sports still sells every single day. A Wii remote controller still sells every day. The consoles, people want to get that stuff for the family reunion so they can all play, you know, Wii tennis again or whatever their memories are about, or bowling or whatever. So yeah, I think that I see strong demand. I see that the graded market has fallen off a cliff recently. I think there was some collusion with people holding on to stock and some of the grading being kind of sketchy. So I think that the graded video game market has come down quite a bit. But I see the general one. There's still a very strong demand in my mind.
Awesome. We got another one for you specifically, Joe, coming up from Tank77 here. He asks Joe, or they ask Joe, what is your go-to method of appraising video games?
Yeah, it's just the same method I do with everything. Is if it has a UPC, I'll scan it. If it doesn't, I'm going to do voice to text and say the name of the title and the console and search it on eBay. Go straight to the sold comps, and that whole time there's a 1 minute timer ticking. I'm like, I've got items to list, I've got things to do, and so I give myself about a minute to pick a number. I'm just like, pick a number and let's move on. I think I probably left a lot of money on the table as far as like sometimes my pricing isn't perfect. Maybe it could have been $1 or 2 more if I'd scrolled a few more sold comps and see that there actually were a couple for $12.99 instead of $11.99. But I think at that time I'd already moved on and listed another item, and there's cash on the table there too. And when you're in a position where you have more inventory than you need, I think in my position, I think it's more profitable to focus a little bit more on speed. Maybe I'm underpricing something. If I'm overpricing slightly, I'll correct or accept an offer. But I don't worry too much about a perfect listing. I think good enough is good enough. I mean, I've sold items with my thumb still showing. Like I'm like such an old, like my finger, and like people still buy it. Like, yeah, okay, a human being took the picture. Like I think people understand. They didn't expect my finger. Thankfully, I did not include my finger in the box.
That's good. Well, you're definitely describing exactly how I think about it too. I mean, you just got to remember that, you know, the time that you're spending is a good measure of the money that you're going to make. If you're spending an hour researching a perfect price for a $30 item, like you're cutting way into your margins by doing that. I'm definitely like, I'm willing to make pricing mistakes here and there because I can list 10 times as much by I time box my pricing efforts as well. I won't. A minute is gracious. I spend about 20 to 30 seconds on it, and sometimes it comes back to bite me. But again, I can list so much more by not trying to get a perfect price, as you said it. So it's a good way to put it.
Yeah, we're so similar. That's great.
We got another one here from semi-crazy keto gal. I've noticed that the automated feedback is going up, like you had mentioned, which is nice. Has anyone else noticed it? I've definitely noticed it. I think I actually saw it today. I've gotten 33 automated eBay feedbacks since they turned it on, which is pretty good. I mean, that's 33 pieces of feedback I wouldn't have gotten before. So what about you, Joe? Have you noticed it as well?
Yeah, I think it's great. I noticed it in my recent feedback. There were like a bunch of things that were pretty obviously generated, but then I went to my recent feedback and they weren't showing up. So I think they're kind of maybe sprinkling it in so it's not all stacking up on the top and looking kind of sketchy, which I think is good. I mean, yeah, I think overall it's great because I think if we fulfill the mission of getting the item and it was tracked and shipped successfully, I think that's a positive transaction. So I think it's changing the meaning of feedback a little bit. I can see maybe some bitterness or just some like, oh man, from resellers who have like really been going above and beyond to make their feedback rating and the percentage of feedback that they get really exceptional, you know, with handwritten notes and stuff. And now the meaning of feedback is kind of different. Now it just means like you kind of did an adequate job and not an exemplary one. So that's kind of a bummer for those people that work so hard for all those other feedbacks that do make your day. Like you get a handwritten or just, you know, a feedback that was obviously written by somebody that cared and meant a lot to them. Like that makes your day as a seller. So it's nice to have that as well. I hope that's not going away, but I think overall it seems like a good change.
Yeah, and I've learned a few things since the automated feedback has gone live that I didn't know before. One of them is the reason you're seeing them sometimes sprinkled throughout and sometimes not is eBay is not showing automated feedback when you view someone's feedback by default. You have to click a button that says show automated feedback. So I think what they're trying to prevent is people looking at someone's feedback and just seeing a stream of identical feedback, which might seem suspect to people. And so you have to enable it to see someone else's automated feedback, which I think is good. I also the other thing that I noticed is if eBay leaves automated feedback, that doesn't prevent the buyer from leaving their own feedback later, including negative feedback. And so just because you got the positive feedback doesn't mean you're safe. And so
Okay, good. That's actually good. I think that's
I
fair.
think so
Yeah.
too. And it also,
Yeah.
like, if they do leave you positive feedback after the fact, it will be overwritten. It'll overwrite the automated feedback as well. And the third thing that I noticed is that I have eBay configured to automatically leave positive feedback for my buyers if they leave positive feedback for me. So I just don't do, it's all automated. I never leave feedback. It's just, that's what I just let eBay do it. But what I noticed is if eBay leaves me automated positive feedback, then it doesn't automatically leave positive feedback for the buyer, which is good. Because I only want to leave positive feedback for the buyer if they've expressly left positive feedback for me. And so I'm glad that they made that decision. So that's what I've learned since it went live. I'm very happy that it's gone live. I think it's going to help you. It's going to help your occasional negative get buried more quickly. So I think it's a very positive thing.
Totally.
We've got a couple more questions here. We're right at the hour mark. We're probably not going to go too much longer. Let's see if we can get these last few questions in. This one here from Moondozer. What's the best way to sell multiple items to a buyer when they are wanting more than one of your items? Joe.
That was another discussion we had with Jamie today. So what I think, I'm not speaking too out of turn, but he really wants to continue to enhance messaging where you can include special offers, special coupons to your buyer so that you can say, if you click this, you can buy these items and it's additional free shipping, or here, you can buy this item through this link and it'll be free shipping just for you in messaging. I think is a really good solution to this, because even the pro sellers still seem to be telling the buyer, go ahead and buy it and I will refund you the excess shipping costs, which sucks because it requires them to trust you one extra step. And I don't want anything getting in the way of them typing in that credit card number. And so it's a bummer that they have to get charged the higher amount and then I have to refund them. And so I think that there could be a better solution to that, but it is hard to implement. I can see why it's kind of difficult. So you don't want everything, especially if you charge a flat rate shipping fee. And I don't want it to just be like everything else is free shipping. I'd like to maybe negotiate, maybe it's half price shipping, because it does make it heavier and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's good to hear that they're going to continue to improve on that. eBay did just release some updates to their chat interface to allow for more robust like offer sending within chat, which I think is excellent. Like it was just always such a pain trying to negotiate with a buyer who has reached out to you over chat. But now it's just much easier. You can basically send an offer to anyone and it's great. And so it's nice to hear that they're probably going to be adding more functionality into chat as well. Ray T here is going to ask a question that pops up on the screen. What determines free shipping or not on an item? I'm always offering free shipping and I want to know if it's worth it or not to offer it at times. What's your thought on that, Joe?
I was a free shipping seller initially because I wanted to do everything that I could to get the buyer. And then what made the decision for me was I found out that on buyer remorse returns, you can withhold that shipping cost, which I think makes it way more fair to use the seller if the buyer just changes their mind. But that only applies if there's a shipping charge that you can withhold. And so that the amount of, just the amount of volume that I sell and a 1 to 2% return rate, that was going to pay for itself already. And I kind of figured that it wouldn't hurt sales that much. And in my experience, it really didn't hurt sales at all. I kept the total price the same. I just looked at sold comps and say, here's how much buyers are willing to pay total, and just had to incorporate a shipping price in there. So I just do flat rate shipping for all my stuff now. And I'm glad I do.
Yeah, I mostly do. I almost had the same evolution as you. And I used to do free shipping on almost everything, but then, also came to the similar realization that it was probably hurting me in the case of returns. But I get so few returns. That probably wasn't a big factor anyway. But, I still offer free shipping occasionally. And it's almost like, I don't know how to explain when I offer free shipping. It's just like a feeling I get, like there's just like, it's usually when the market value is very clear. It's like very little room for variance in the market value. And it's a really easy item to ship. Usually I'm just like, let's just get it out the door for the free shipping. I think that's going to be attractive to buyers. But, I'm very careful to not offer free shipping in categories that are more prone to return. So I've been selling a lot of sunglasses lately, and those have been higher return rates. I think people just want to try them on. And so they buy it and try it on and don't like it and then send it back. So I stopped doing free shipping on all sunglasses, even though that's a good category to do it in because they're easy to ship. And so it's just me, it's like anything else on eBay, like everything else on eBay, it's more of an art than a science. You kind of just got to figure it out. It depends completely on who you are, where you live, what you're selling, all sorts of variants or variables. And so it's really hard to figure it out. Last question of the night Another
Oh
one from
man.
Pitco here. Joe, I'm curious, what's your good enough target? What's your good enough target for your business goals?
I mean, good enough at this point in my life is just good enough to pay the bills, stay healthy, and stay present for my kids. And so that's like my bare minimum. Is like as long as I'm like making enough to pay the bills. And yeah, I think that's my good enough. I recognize that financial security is like so important. That sounds so cliche, but something Tech in Sports said one time. It's like you can say that family is important all day, but if you can't pay the rent, you might not be able to show up to that baseball game, no matter how important your kids are to you. If you need to pay the rent and you're the one, you got to show up to work if that's your place. And so I wanted to be able to show up to the baseball games and at least have that freedom. And so I push myself so past that goal. Like my actual good enough is higher than that, I think, because I don't want to be close to that, because that's that I think that, we say that all these other things are so important, but actually what we have to spend our time and our focus on, if we don't have enough money, I mean, we live in a capitalist society, man. Like it's not my favorite, but it is what it is. I mean, there's medical bills and like, it's you got good enough that's the bare minimum. I mean, yeah, I think, and it's so important to figure it out and then figure out how do I become the kind of person for me that can double it. So my goal has always been to double the bare minimum, and that's room for breathing room and fun and savings and all that. So
yeah, well, I think it's really well said. And you throw in a lot of non-business specific goals in how you describe that. Like you say, being there for your kids. That's a good way to think of like it for a lot of people who want to do this work. That's one of the reasons why they want more freedom and flexibility, time freedom, flexibility to do what they want in the time and spend their time in the ways that they want, that having a traditional job doesn't allow them to do it. And so, when you're thinking about how do I build a business that is suitable for me, you got to be thinking about those other things that are important to you. And I think you said that very, very well. Well, Joe, I really appreciate your time here today. It was really fun to talk to you, hear about your time, in DC, talking to some eBay executives and eating at fancy restaurants and getting driven around in Cadillacs and whatnot. It's a lot of fun. And, thanks for sharing so much about your business. I know that it's helpful to people. If y'all haven't seen, Joe's channel, Joe's videos, check them out. I think that if you're a fan of my videos, you're probably going to be a fan of his as well. And Joe, tell folks where they can find you. And,
oh, thank you so much, Justin, man. What an honor. So I'm not a big person on social media. I'm on eBay and I'm on YouTube. So my YouTube is Profit First Reseller. And then in every video, I link to my eBay store right there if you want to check it out. And that's just so I post shorts that are kind of chopped up version of my long form, but kind of a promise I made to myself early on with the channel is I always wanted to be working on eBay while I was filming. I wanted to be showing what it's like. And really before I was monetized, I kind of had the same goal. Before I hit 1,000 followers, my promise to myself, it was so funny you said that, was I'm not going to be filming a video unless I'm actually also doing something that's going to be making money for my family, because I can't just be spending my productive 9 to 5 time up in my room filming videos if I'm not making money, because like that, I also need to be doing that. And so that was kind of my goal. And so I think that's kind of become the theme of our channel, of my channel at least, is just showing as honestly as I can what I'm doing, what it looks like to be a full-time seller. Like I said, it's just my wife and I. We don't have a bunch of employees or anything. So we've just taken the part-time reseller model, which is selling out of your garage, and I think just kind of maximize it as much as we're literally still selling out of our garage, but that is a very full garage. So
I've seen it. Yeah. It is a very full garage. Well, Joe, thanks so much, y'all. Check out his channel, Profit First Reseller. Joe, thank you so much for joining me today. Y'all, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. We'll see you next week.